Got a lot of comments in the last video. People tired of me talking about MMOs that are 10 years their target. The one that appears actually most likely to launch the soonest, believe it or not, is Taurusland. This is the game that notoriously got its start in response to Blizzard pulling World of Warcraft out of China. They said, fine, we'll make our own WoW, and that appears to be precisely what they have done. Not to say that this is a direct one-for-one copy, because it's not, but boy, you can certainly see some of the similarities. That aside, though, it is a new MMO, and it's launching very soon. Just the other week on their official Discord, they posted this announcement. Taurusland is nearing its official release, and pre-registration is available now on the Google Play Store, Apple App Store, and our official website. Now, currently, we see an expected launch date.
Cuando sale el Tarisland, no pone nada, ¿no? Parece.
Listed as June 23rd. Although they have said that that is not set in stone, it does give us a rough timeline. It is also, coincidentally, the only actual listed date we have for any of these games on this list. Everything else is pretty much just a target year and target quarter that's listed without any having an actual official launch day and month. So yes, Taurusland does appear like it is the most concrete launch date that we have at the moment. Now, in terms of my expectations, well, I've heard okay but not phenomenal things from the early testing. None of the impressions that I've seen have come away super enthused about the game. It does appear to be a fairly by-the-numbers theme park MMO with the typical offerings. You'll follow a main story quest, level up through different zones, doing dungeons along the way. Dungeons are as you expect them, clear through enemies, fight a boss, and collect loot. These come in multiple difficulties. There are 10-person raids, world bosses, daily quests, solo tower climbs, PvP battlegrounds, and arenas. Now, those are the general content types, but overall, again, I've not heard terribly great things. Unfortunately, it seems like the combat isn't very good. It feels floaty and not that impactful. It very much so looks and feels like a mobile game that's getting ported to PC because, well, that's what it is. I think it's no coincidence that they listed the mobile stores before they listed the website PC version of the game in their announcement. And the game is cross-platform for mobile and PC, so you will be playing with mobile users. And I've heard complaints about this as well, being that they don't. They've been steadily ramping up testing for the game, holding a month-long beta back in December, with another one currently underway, running from now up to middle of May. The game is scheduled to launch in the third quarter of this year, which would put it sometime between July and September. Although this is not a prediction for. Next up, we have got Throne and Liberty. So this one also seems certain to release this year. We're just not exactly sure as of yet when, but it is already out in Korea as of last December, and the global launch is planned for some point this year. So closed beta testing of the global version is actually starting this week. It's going to be fairly brief, beginning on Wednesday, April 14th, and lasting until the 17th. This is a confidential NDA, so don't expect to see any streams or videos. But again, the game has already launched in Korea, and we're not expecting a whole lot to change beyond localization and maybe a few minor adjustments. The content should pretty much be exactly the same. So Throne and Liberty is a more traditional theme park MMO. It's got a massive, seamless open world with no loading screens and tons of players. I have seen clips with easily 100 to 200 people in a single area. There's diverse and varied terrain to explore with traversal mechanics that really reward that exploration. You've got the ability to glide, a grapple hook, and mantling onto most of the terrain. There's the typical assortment of MMO quests and activities, public events for both PvE and PvP, a few varieties. The next game on the list might not meet many of your qualifications for an MMO, but the developer themselves are calling it one. I'm talking about Dune Awakening. This is described as an open-world survival sandbox MMO. Developed by Funcom, who have said that they're looking to take the past 20 years of experience in both of these genres and bring them together. There will be a heavy survival focus, the usual loop of starting with nothing, venturing out, gathering basic resources to craft basic tools to build basic crafting stations that let you progress to the next tier to get
Pero más que MMO parece survival esto, ¿no?
other better resources and make better tools for better stations, so on and so on. There's base building with all the usual offerings. They've taken the foundation of their prior game, Conan Exiles, and added and expanded upon it. There's even vehicle construction. In fact, vehicles are going to play a fairly large role in the game.
Puede estar bien este,
to traverse the sands and avoid other players, as well as the sandworms. As per the Dune universe, sandworms are a constant
un poco doblado de FPS, parece.
to act as a tension mechanic, forcing players to think about their actions for fear of drawing their attention. If you make too much noise, if you move too much across the sand, if you drive large vehicles for too long, the worms will inevitably arrive, and you can't defeat them, you must only run from them. Combat itself will be in third person. It's an action shooter game. You'll pick from a wide array of crafted weapons, gadgets, vehicles, gear, and abilities from the different great schools of the Imperium, which are basically your class select for later this year.
PAX Day. Este me suena de haberlo escuchado o algo, no sé.
All right, next up we've got PAX Day. So this one is claiming for an early access release in the spring, which in order for them to hit would have to be within the next few months here. This is an open world survival sandbox MMO with a massive focus on community. In fact, every building in the game will be player built. The economy will be entirely player run. There aren't even traditional MMO NPCs or quest givers in the game. There are enemies to fight and such, but there aren't NPCs that you chat with to learn about the lore or to do quests for. None of that. This is a game that leans very heavily into the sandbox camp of the genre. Now, part of the reason I'm uncertain about this launch here is that the last test they held in November was pretty bare bones with just the fundamentals of gathering,
pero eso que parece más survival que MMO,
very
tío.
basic combat. The game just didn't seem anywhere near complete enough for even an early access launch. That said, though, it was intentionally limited. That was the point. Specifically, it was designed to test those elements. And in the 5 months since then, they have seemingly made some good advances. So maybe they do very well launch into early access soon in the spring as they are projecting. In fact, a recent post did a little breakdown of what they've worked on in the time since the last alpha. They've revamped their RPG and stat systems from different types of damage to the introduction of durability mechanics. They've also
Vale, ¿qué
enhanced
más?
the depth and complexity
Blue
of
Protocol.
gameplay with spell.
No sé. A priori me llama cero.
So yes, Blue Protocol is scheduled for 2024, but here's the thing. The global version of this game is being published by Amazon, who are also publishing Throne and Liberty. Now, at the moment, it seems like Throne and Liberty is their priority. They have been pushing it way more on social media and advertising. They've been actively announcing closed beta testing, whereas I've not heard a peep from Amazon about Blue Protocol in months. Nothing at all. In fact, their last activity on the official Twitter account was in August 2023, and since then it has been just nothing, absolute crickets. Now, since they're publishing both of these games and they're both MMOs, we do expect there to be a bit of a gap between the two so that they're not competing with themselves for a player base. And since as of yet we don't have an exact release date for Throne and Liberty, and I expect them to at least have a couple of months of runway after announcing that, unless Throne and Liberty comes out like late summer, early fall, I'm really not sure that Blue Protocol is going to make it out in this calendar year.
Que se le van a juntar los dos, tío. Tienen que sacar el Throne Liberty y este, ¿sabes? ¿Cuándo? ¿Que vais a sacar uno y al mes siguiente otro o cómo es?
But who knows? This could all change tomorrow. Amazon could all of a sudden come out and announce we're going to be launching Throne and Liberty in June or August, and then that would give them enough time for Blue Protocol to come out in the fall. Like, that could happen. As of now, it hasn't, and again, it looks like they're giving priority to Throne and Liberty, and Blue Protocol, once again, is being put on the back burner, but we will see what happens. Anything could change. Project LLL is also targeting a launch in 2024, but when it comes to this game, they've just been so tight-lipped, it's really hard for me to judge. Other than the gameplay
Creo que este era de NZXT también, ¿eh? ¿O no? Me suena, tío, que tenían uno así pensado sacar también.
during last year's G-Star event, I've not seen or heard any updates for this game. Sort of like Once Human, this is going to be an open world looter shooter with some interesting looking ideas, and we have done a couple of videos going in a bit more detail about it if you want to figure out those specifics, but in general, I'm pretty in the dark with this one. I have not seen any info or details about beta testing taking place. I've not seen any hands-on impressions. I've not even seen any leaks come out, and that happens for basically any game that is getting actively tested. You will see leaks online for people who just don't care about the NDAs. They will talk about them, but still seems to have a very long road ahead of it, with development having slowed in recent years and the last alpha test showing that they still seem to have a ways to go. But they have been receptive to feedback. It does appear like they are implementing good changes based on that feedback, and there's another alpha planned for later this month. And here we'll get to see those recently made changes in action, and I am hoping for the best. I'm hoping for good progress. I'm hoping for improvements, because I do still love the idea of an MMO that plays like a MOBA, and I think it has potential. I do think Core Punk has potential, but their Soul Frame, which we might be getting some test of this year, they've said on several occasions that they plan to begin publicly testing the game fairly early on in the process, even earlier than what they did with Warframe all the way back in 2013. Of course, Ashes of Creation is still trucking along. This game gets regular updates, but it is still in alpha testing, with the Alpha 2 testing
Se balacas ahí por la cara de repente.
3 of this year, so a full launch is most certainly not happening. Quinfall supposedly exists
Quinfall.
and is running tests right
Esto me
now.
suena
We'll see
también.
how that one pans out. And then there's all the other games, you know, we got like Chrono Odyssey, ArcAge 2, Project Ragnarok, Into the Echo, and a handful of others that are in development, coming out at some point, but don't look to be anywhere near release. And then we've got those games that I've been talking about for what feels like a decade, Pantheon and Camelot Unchained. I just don't have much to say about those two games, and it's really unfortunate for what started out all those years ago as promising projects and ideas, just where they are today on the horizon. We have all the big ones that are getting expansions. Final Fantasy XIV has its Dawn Trail expansion coming out, I believe, in the summer. World of Warcraft has the War Within expansion, either planned for late summer or early fall. Of course, WoW Classic is happening. Season of Discovery is trucking along. There's a brand new yearly chapter update for Elder Scrolls Online. Guild Wars 2 has another expansion planned, and I'm sure many of the other existing popular MMOs have updates, but those are the ones that I at least personally am paying attention to. And yeah, that is just about it. That's really what I want. I really wanted to just focus on the new MMOs, the actual new games that are coming out this year or could be coming out this year. And as a quick recap, the ones that seem likely to actually launch in 2024 are Tarisland, Once Human, Throne of Liberty, Dune Awakening, and PAX Day. And the ones that are scheduled but I'm not so sure about include Blue Protocol, Project LLL, and Corepunk, with the whole other rest of the list being at some point in the future. But there you go. If you are sick and tired of me talking about games that are 5 to 10 years away from actually coming out, here are some of the new MMOs that are coming out very soon, hopefully.
Vale. Ahí no le he dado...
got a lot of comments in the last video. People